In the high-speed world of NASCAR, one name shone brighter than all: Dale Earnhardt. He was more than just a racer, he was a legend, a force to be reckoned with on the track. But beneath the roar of engines and the cheers of fans, a heartbreaking story was unfolding. February 18, 2001 is a date etched in NASCAR history, but not for the reasons anyone had imagined. It's the day when the world of motorsport lost one of its greatest icons. The man known for his fearless driving and trademark black number 3 car met a tragic end on that fateful day. Join us as we unravel the tragic story of Dale Earnhardt, a tale of speed, triumph, and the haunting echoes of a race that would change everything. Dale Earnhardt was born on April 29, 1951 in Kannapolis, North Carolina. He looked up to his dad, Ralph Earnhardt, a 6th grade dropout who went on to become a Hall of Fame NASCAR driver. In the early years, Ralph had a family to look after, so he worked at a car repair shop to make extra money. His sons, including Dale, spent a lot of time with him at the shop. There, they learned how to take care of cars. And in 1956, they all celebrated when their dad won the NASCAR Sportsman Series championship. Although Ralph did not want his son to pursue a career as a race car driver, Dale was a lot like his dad. He dropped out of school to pursue his dreams when he was 16, married young, and started racing in his late teens. Rumor has it that at the age of 12, Dale secretly drove his father's car in one of his 1963 races and had a near victory against one of his father's closest competitors. Ralph was a tough teacher for his son, and it wasn't until many years later, after Ralph passed away from a heart attack at the young age of 45 in 1973, that Earnhardt felt like he had finally proved himself to his dad. Earnhardt kicked off his racing career on dirt roads, and his very first official race car was a 1956 Ford Victoria. It wasn't anything special, just a regular 6-cylinder Ford. He wanted to paint it purple, but it turned out looking more like a not-so-macho pink. But he didn't mind and drove it anyway. He was a do-it-yourself kind of guy and would build and repair his cars by himself, often borrowing money to do so, hoping to win in order to pay off his debts. In 1974, after the birth of his son Dale Jr., Earnhardt made a significant shift in his racing career, moving from dirt tracks to asphalt. He got hold of a used race car and started competing in local races, initially in the Sportsman division, which later evolved into the Busch circuit. He was determined to continue his family's racing legacy. Between 1976 and 1979, Earnhardt participated in a total of 8 Winston Cup races, and sponsors recognized his exceptional talent. He had the natural skills and a calm attitude that could make him a potential champion driver. However, Earnhardt could be fearless to the point of recklessness. He had a habit of crashing and flipping cars like they were easy to replace, which made it hard to find sponsors to cover the costs of repairing his cars. In 1979, Earnhardt got his first full-time NASCAR opportunity. He raced in 27 events that year and did so well that he earned the Rookie of the Year title with 17 top 10 finishes. And just 1 year later in 1980, Earnhardt won his first NASCAR championship. In 1984, Earnhardt joined Richard Childress Racing, and for the next 18 years, they teamed up to win more than 60 NASCAR races and 6 NASCAR championships, with Earnhardt driving his famous number 3 Chevrolet. Dale Earnhardt had a reputation for being a master of intimidation on the racetrack. He had an incredible ability to push a race car to its absolute limits. When he was behind the wheel, he had 2 ways of getting to the front. He'd either race past his competitors with incredible skill, or if that didn't work, he'd move them out of the way. This aggressive approach earned him memorable nicknames like the Intimidator, the Man in Black, and Ironhead. Earnhardt's relentless perseverance shone through in an incident in 1997. During a race, there was a scary moment when his car flipped, but miraculously, he climbed out of the car and was okay. As he made his way to an ambulance, he suddenly realized something. All 4 wheels and tires on his car were still intact. Earnhardt, being the determined racer that he was, got back to his car before the tow truck crew did. He hopped into the driver's seat and finished the race, although he ended up in 31st place. In the year 2000, Earnhardt had 2 of the most thrilling wins of the season. In one race, he beat Bobby Labonte by just 1/100th of a second in Atlanta. And in another memorable performance, he passed an astounding 17 cars in the last 4 laps to seize victory at Talladega. This win not only marked his record 10th triumph at the Talladega track, but also earned him the prestigious No Bull $1 million bonus, making it a truly unforgettable season. As we journey through his life, it is becoming clear why Dale Earnhardt is remembered as one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history, and in 1998, he was rightfully named one of NASCAR's 50 greatest drivers. Just 1 year later, his son Dale Earnhardt Jr. joined the Cup Series circuit. Fans began discussing Earnhardt's age and speculating that with his son making his Winston Cup debut, Earnhardt might be contemplating retirement. However, he had no plans to sit on his laurels anytime soon. Instead, he took on the retronyms Dale Earnhardt Sr. and Dale Sr., and he kept racing with the same determination and passion that had made him a NASCAR legend. Despite Earnhardt's incredible success, there was one victory that continually seemed to elude him: the Daytona 500. It took him a total of 20 attempts to secure his first Daytona 500 win in 1998, which marked his 71st career victory. However, in a tragic twist of fate, it would be the same Daytona 500 that would ultimately claim Earnhardt's life just 3 years later. The Daytona 500 is a famous and iconic NASCAR race held annually at the Daytona International Speedway in Daytona Beach, Florida. It is often referred to as the Great American Race and is considered one of the most important events in the NASCAR Cup Series. The Daytona 500 is a 500-mile-long race that consists of 200 laps around the 2.5-mile oval track at Daytona International Speedway. The race is known for its high speed and close competition, with drivers eagerly competing for the desired title. Victory in this race holds a special significance for NASCAR drivers, as it often serves as a career-defining moment. However, during the Daytona 500 on February 18, 2001, tragedy struck. On the morning of the race, Dale Earnhardt, the 7-time NASCAR Cup champion known as the Fearless Intimidator, seemed confident and relaxed. He was a frontrunner throughout the race, leading for 17 laps. One of the race's significant moments occurred on lap 173. Earnhardt was in 7th place with 2 of his team's cars ahead of him. His good friend Michael Waltrip drove the blue number 15 Chevrolet, and his son Dale Earnhardt Jr. was in the red number 8 Chevrolet, both leading the race. But during that same lap, a massive accident took out 18 cars. Luckily, all drivers involved were safe, but as a result, the race was temporarily halted for cleanup. When the race resumed on lap 180, Waltrip was leading the way, with Earnhardt Jr. right behind him. Earnhardt Sr. was in 3rd place and found himself in a battle with Sterling Marlin, who was in 4th, doing his best at blocking his attempts to pass. But at turn 4 on the last lap of the race, something unexpected happened. Earnhardt Sr.'s car made slight contact with Marlin's car, and in NASCAR, even the slightest contact can lead to big trouble. Earnhardt's car veered off the track, and when he tried to rejoin it, he moved in front of Ken Schrader's car, resulting in a collision. This sent his car up the track, and he crashed head-on into the wall at a steep angle, going at a speed between 155 and 160 miles per hour. The impact broke the right rear wheel assembly off his car. However, the crash didn't look too severe, and both drivers eventually came to a stop on the grass. Schrader got out of his car and walked over to check on Earnhardt, who was still in his Chevy. Everyone was just waiting for him to get up and walk away from the site. But as time passed, Earnhardt had not gotten out of his car, and it was clear that something was seriously wrong. Schrader realized the gravity of the situation unfolding right in front of his eyes, and quickly signaled for paramedics who had just arrived at the crash site. Michael Waltrip would go on to win the race, the first of his career, with Earnhardt Jr. finishing 2nd. Waltrip, who was unaware and celebrating in victory lane, recalled, "I couldn't wait for Dale to get to victory lane. I knew when he got there it would be the biggest hug ever. I was more excited about that hug than the trophy or the money, but that hug never came." Earnhardt's car owner and longtime best friend Richard Childress said, "I thought it was just another crash. I saw it on TV and it didn't look that bad. Just another tough crash. I hollered at Dale a couple of times on the radio and he didn't answer back, which was a little unusual." Although it may have seemed like a typical NASCAR crash at the time, the impact at this specific angle was incredibly destructive for the driver. As both Earnhardt's and Schrader's cars spun down the track together, the right rear wheel of Earnhardt's car was violently torn off, a clear sign of the immense force involved in the crash. Surprisingly, Schrader, whose car had also hit the wall but at a less severe angle, emerged without any injuries. Medical teams arrived swiftly, but despite their efforts, there was little that could be done except to transfer Earnhardt to the ambulance and rush him to the nearby Halifax Medical Center. Tragically, he was pronounced dead upon arrival at 5:16 p.m. at the age of 49. Dale Earnhardt's official cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, primarily resulting from a basal skull fracture upon impact, the same injury that had killed 3 other NASCAR drivers over the previous 8 months. The circumstances were harrowing. Earnhardt's car had collided with the wall at a speed ranging from 155 to 160 miles per hour at an angle between 55 and 59 degrees. In this horrifying incident, Earnhardt experienced a rapid change in velocity, about 42 to 44 miles per hour, all within a mere 80 milliseconds. Subsequent tests revealed that the forces he experienced were intense, ranging from -68 to -48 Gs. To put this in perspective, this force is similar to the impact of a stationary car being struck head-on by another car moving at speeds between 75 to 80 miles per hour. What initially seemed like a simple collision with a barrier was, in reality, a far more complex and devastating event. In the NASCAR's crash report published in August 2001, it was stated that Dale Earnhardt's left side lap belt had separated in the impact, allowing his body to twist forward and to the right inside the car. However, a later medical investigation concluded that there was no evidence of the belt failure playing a role in his death. His autopsy revealed the underside of his chin had impacted the steering wheel, and he'd suffered a second blow to the back of his head. As he rebounded from the impact back into his seat, Earnhardt's open-faced helmet had rotated forwards when he hit the wall, exposing the back of his skull. It's important to note that Earnhardt didn't utilize any head and neck safety restraints, unlike several other drivers who had chosen to wear them on that fateful day. He had famously criticized the potentially life-saving Hans, a head and neck support device, claiming it restricted his freedom of motion and made him uncomfortable. This decision contributed to the severity of his injuries. His non-fatal injuries were 8 broken ribs, a broken left ankle, and fractured sternum. We got to the hospital and I walked right into Dad's room. I knew right away when I saw him that it was just as bad as it could be, Earnhardt Jr. shared. After the accident, I never wanted to see another racetrack or race car again, he said. But after about a week, I got to thinking, what else am I going to do? My dad gave me this opportunity, so I'd be foolish not to keep going. In the aftermath of the crash, the NASCAR world was in mourning. Dale Earnhardt's tragic passing took center stage in the media and sparked widespread conversations, inevitably leading to speculation and allegations. Some fans directed their anger at Sterling Marlin, blaming him for Earnhardt's death, and Marlin reported receiving death threats in the weeks that followed. Earnhardt's friend and winner of the race, Waltrip, said, "If you take what happened on that day and you look at it, it wasn't tragic. That sounds hard to say, but it was a moment when a man was doing just what he wanted to do. He was taken from us, but he was racing with a purpose, helping his buddy and helping his son. He was right where he wanted to be." For many years, one question lingered in the minds of countless individuals. Could Earnhardt have survived his 2001 Daytona 500 crash if he had been wearing a HANS device like 5 other drivers on the grid that Sunday afternoon? Because accident reconstruction is difficult and sometimes imprecise, Jim Downing, one of the creators of the HANS device, treaded softly in August 2001. If Earnhardt would have had the device on, it would have stopped a fair amount of the body twist and taken a bunch out of the neck stress. It may have pushed him below that threshold where he didn't die, but it's speculation. Even in the wake of Earnhardt's tragic accident, many drivers remained hesitant to embrace the HANS device until it became a mandatory requirement 8 months after his death. Now, 20 years later, Downing added with confidence, "Since then, we've had wreck after wreck after wreck, and we haven't lost anybody since Dale. Similar wrecks to his. Really bad wrecks that HANS-wearing drivers survived, so now I can be even stronger than in the early days. I can say it's probably 95% he would have survived. The evidence is in, and it's pretty conclusive that the HANS eliminates the snap that causes the basal skull fractures." Now let's not forget about the iconic number 3, forever associated with Dale Earnhardt's legacy. After his tragic passing in 2001, The number 3 was held in such high regard that it remained absent from the NASCAR Cup Series cars owned by Richard Childress for over a decade. It wasn't until 2014 that Childress made the decision to bring the number 3 back to the Cup car, and it was none other than his grandson, Austin Dillon, who took the wheel. In the world of racing, the name Dale Earnhardt will forever be etched in history. His legendary career was marked by countless victories, fierce determination, and an unbreakable spirit. The Intimidator, the Man in Black, was a legend who raced into eternity. He was more than a racer, he was an icon, and his legacy continues to inspire and define the sport of NASCAR.